We kick off with the Enterprise answering the garbled transmission from the USS Constellation, asking for help. When they arrive, the ship's heavily damaged and not responding. But hell, that describes about 98% of their rendezvous with other Federation ships. In fact, I'd be surprised if it wasn't dragging its muffler and surrounded by the horrified, frozen faces of the late crew. But what really adds to the weirdness is that most of the planets in the system have been destroyed, but the star itself is intact. That's puzzling. Let's hope that we're not responsible in some way. You break it, you bought it. Kirk beams over to the Constellation, bringing along Scotty to assess the damage, McCoy in case someone's injured, and some never-before-seen damage control guys in case the dangerous salt-sucking monster is around. There's no sign that they were interrupted in the middle of something, yet there's also no sign of a crew, and the two remaining planets are inhospitable to human life. There was some kind of fight, because the phaser banks are completely empty, despite assurances that phaser banks are too big to fail. The damage is too great to even move. They can't get to the bridge, but while searching for a backup access to the captain's log, they find Commodore Matt Decker, looking like he discovered he accidentally used his priceless coin collection to pay for his tolls. Kirk begins badgering the guy with a tone that reminds you that these are the days when the ship counselor was a bottle of scotch and a boot to the ass. Jim, he's undergone severe trauma. Severe trauma is what I'm going to do to him with this pipe unless he stops hiding under his blanket and talks. Before Kirk can start pistol whipping the guy, they discover what happened. Witnessing a planet breaking up, the ship engaging until it was virtually dead, and then ordering an evacuation to try to save the crew. Only then it destroyed the planet that they were evacuated to, which sort of ruined that escape plan. It's hard to say it's not the end of the world when it really is the end of the world. Decker explains that it used anti-protons. Pure anti-protons, he emphasizes. It's none of that Chinese knockoff stuff with the positrons mixed in. And Spock confirms that we're dealing with a giant planet-eating robot. So I think we can all guess who's really behind this. They figure out that this thing uses planets as a power source. It came from outside the galaxy, and is probably some kind of Doomsday device, hence the title. It's a weapon of last resort that wound up destroying both sides, and now it still keeps going on even after it long was rendered completely irrelevant, like Kevin Costner. On its current trajectory, it will pass through the most densely populated parts of our galaxy, which is bad because we keep most of our population on planets, so we should probably find a way to stop it. So, good timing, we found it, and it's coming to kill us. It blasts them all with a Mad Hatter ray. At least that's what I figure it must be, because every time it shoots them, they keep changing places until eventually Sulu winds up in the captain's chair. During all this, Kirk has been on the Constitution trying to get it sorted out, so when it decides that it's had enough and leaves, Spock plans to go get Kirk and alert Starfleet. But Decker, who has clearly lost his marbles, wants to fight it again. If at first you don't succeed, die again. Decker assumes command and Spock allows him, since he has no regulation justifying preventing Decker. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, but I'm afraid that definition doesn't appear in the DSM-5, so they'll just have to keep on fighting the big space funnel, even though its hull is neutronium. If you're not familiar with that, don't worry. Just imagine someone trying to tunnel through granite with a plastic spork and you'll get the idea. However, this one-sided fight is what Spock needs, as he states that if Decker continues, he is obviously committing suicide, which means that he's not fit for command, which forces Decker to then agree that he's got to stop being stupid. Meanwhile, Scotty has got the Constitution running under impulse with recharged phaser banks, no less, using only 3 guys in a toolbox. Give him a few more hours and the phasers will be replaced with neutronium-destroying bagpipes. They provide a distraction, and while Decker is in full from hell's hard I stab at thee mode, nevertheless, he's not incompetent. His judgment is just clouded from getting his crew killed in so horrible a way. But once he's done helping both ships to survive, Kirk has had enough of him and has him relieved, ordering Mr. Montgomery to take him to sickbay. I don't know what his first name is, but I always like to imagine it's Scott, because having a Scott Montgomery and a Montgomery Scott on board would be wonderful. According to this, one showed extreme valor in defending the captain from a robotic koala, and one got drunk on duty and peed into the reactor coolant tank. Well, if you're not sure, just flip a coin then. Well, Decker doesn't take kindly to arrest, so he beats up Scott Montgomery, swipes his shuttlecraft, and heads off to fly into the maw of the thing to blow it up from the inside. Kirk tries to talk him out of it, but he might as well try to persuade a snake to tie itself into a knot, so Decker dies. However, Sulu does detect a small drop in power because of damage that the shuttle did on the inside, which gives Kirk an idea. Let's keep the Enterprise at a safe enough distance so that it can warn Starfleet, but let's also use the Constellation for the Hail Mary pass. If Kirk can blow up the core inside the planet killer, a lot more powerful than a shuttlecraft, that might do even more damage, maybe even destroy it. It's a big gamble. It depends on beaming Kirk off at just the right time, and the transporters have been having problems. A cranky transporter is a might finicky piece of machinery to be gambling your life on, sir. You mean our lives. Ha! You're a funny man, Captain. But not to worry, Scotty beams him back. The Constitution blows up the Planet Eater. Another day that we've saved the universe. We'll definitely have to put in a commendation for Montgomery Scott, and a reprimand for Scott Montgomery over this. Doomsday Machine starts as a mystery, slowly feeding us signs of what's wrong, even as the crew try to make sense of the few clues that they have. In fact, as heretical as it might seem to some, the updated special effects for this episode really shore up the only weakness of the episode, instead contributing to that sense of mystery and to the strong sense of atmosphere. This mystery keeps growing and growing until it pays off with its practically Lovecraftian threat. The episode has a well-executed combination that drives the tension up and up until the big climax of Kirk's escape and the destruction of the Constellation, and with it, the planet killer. Its Moby Dick-inspired background for the Commodore is nevertheless tempered with some rationality to give him more dimensions than you might normally suspect for the guy in command who shouldn't be character. For instance, the decision Spock and Decker were making. What we had was Decker certain that thing had to be stopped before it murdered millions of people, and Spock's certainty that the Enterprise alone can do nothing. Both do have a point. With all reason saying that Decker can't do a damn thing, it's not all that different from in Best of Both Worlds when the Mars Defense Perimeter, 3 small ships, charges the cube as it approaches the Earth and are vaporized without even slowing it down. A futile gesture, but it's human nature to want to do something to avert an intolerable event, even if the chances of success are negligible. Yet Spock's reasoning is impossible to argue against. It will not accomplish anything, and in fact, their death would prevent warning Starfleet and thus do nothing to ensure that any world beyond Rigel could be saved. So, Decker might be mad, but it's a relatable madness, especially in light of the losses that he had personally suffered at the metaphorical hands of this monster. Kirk's actions make Decker's all the more eerie because we can see echoes of each man within the other. Decker's obsession with destroying the planet killer is essentially so that his crew had not died for nothing. And Kirk's plan keeps being mentioned alongside his desire to see that, after Decker's failed attempt to blow the planet killer up from the inside, that the Commodore didn't die from nothing. And while I don't think the same experience would drive Kirk to the same actions, we see Kirk winding up in the same kind of situation as what broke Decker, who had to watch helplessly while his crew was destroyed, just as Kirk had to sit there and do nothing as his crew faced probable annihilation while it was under Decker's ill-advised command. The Doomsday Machine is a great blend of tension and action, precisely paced and flawlessly executed, with a perfect collection of sharp and quotable dialogue. Even its score and editing need to be praised for the fantastic job of keeping the work tense and gripping. The Doomsday Machine is arguably TOS's shining moment for action because its action was side by side with such excellence in all the other areas, even leaving room to reflect at the end about Doomsday weapons, and the reminder of their relevance in the Cold War era when this aired. Awards time. Falling to pieces. That Commodore did not pass his sanity check, let me tell you. Eco-unfriendly message. Destroying the environment is just not good for the environment. Took a level in effects. This time improving effects actually improves the episode. And finally, There is a devil. That's our show. Next time, we finally go where we have not gone before.